Hare Krishna, Vanchakalpa, Tarubhyascha, Kripasindu, Bhyevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. So welcome to our continuation of study of Canto 12 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Chapter 8. And we are up to text 43. Chapter 8, you recall, is titled Markandeya Prayers to Narnarayan Rishi. So we've already had in this chapter the story of how Markandeya Rishi went up to Badarik Ashram to perform austerities and penances, and Indra sent a whole bunch of apsaras and similar people to seduce him, distract him from his vows and a path of purity, which Indra does this because he's afraid the sages become powerful. And he resisted all their blandishments. And then when he had done that, after the whole assault from the senses from Indra, then the sages Narayan, they're described as one, Narayan Rishi, but they're two people. One is dark complexion, one is white complexion, both with four arms. They're described, they're dressed as sages. They have black deer skin garments and bark, and wearing a sacred thread and water pot, bamboo staff, lotus seed prayer beads, and so on. So this says here that they appear as austerity personified. And then it says these two sages were the direct personal forms of the Supreme Lord. So Markandeya sees them, his eyes filled with tears, his hair stands up, and he, choking with ecstasy, Gudguda, he offers them, pays obeisance to them, sits them down, washes their feet, arghya, sandalwood, oils, flower garlands. So he receives them nicely, bows down before them. And then with 40, Markandeya's prayers. So we've gotten up to 43. But just I'll read the translations, starting with 40. Sri Markandeya said, "O Almighty Lord, how can I possibly describe you?" It's interesting that there's two of them, but it addresses them sometimes in the singular. How can I possibly describe you? You awaken the vital air, which then impels the mind, senses, and power of speech to act. This is true for all ordinary conditioned souls and even for great demigods like Brahma and Shiva. So it is certainly true for me. Nevertheless, you become the intimate friend of those who worship you. That's an interesting point, isn't it? I mean, here I can sit in this body and I can want to raise my hand and it goes up. How did I do that? I haven't got the faintest idea, but it works. So actually, the Lord is controlling all our senses all the time. We're wired in to the cosmos. We discussed that the last time. He goes on, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, these two personal forms of yours have appeared to bestow the ultimate benefit for the three worlds, the cessation of material misery and the conquest of death. My Lord, although you create this universe and then assume many transcendental forms to protect it, you also swallow it up, just like a spider who spins and later withdraws its web. He goes on, 42, because you are the protector and the supreme controller of all moving and non-moving beings, anyone who takes shelter of your lotus feet can never be touched by the contamination of material work, material qualities, or time. Great sages who have assimilated the essential meaning of the Vedas offer their prayers to you. To gain your association, they bow down to you at every opportunity and constantly worship you and meditate upon you. So that's how far we've gotten. So before we go on, first we'll say this. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Just occurred to me, there's a text sometimes we say before we recite Bhagavatam, because it's interesting because it is in the first canto, second chapter, where Sutta Goswami, Sutta Goswami is paying obeisances to the sages at Naimisharanya forest, that he's going to speak the Bhagavatam. They've questioned him. So he says this text 4, which mentions Narayan Rishi. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet. Before reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, I offer my respectful obeisance to the personality of Godhead Narayana, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. So that's where it begins. So because we were remarking before how really this Bhagavatam kind of comes around to the beginning again. And so they're mentioned there. So I just wanted to recite that one too. So now, text 43. He continues now in his prayers. So I'll read 43 in the Sanskrit. Nayam tavangre upanayadapavargamurtehe shemam janasya parito biya isha vidmaha brahma vivecya lamato diparadadishnya kalasya tekya mutatat kritabhautikanam. So these are long, more complicated verses, but the translation is, my dear Lord, even Lord Brahma, who enjoys his exalted position for the entire duration of the universe, fears the passage of time. Then what to speak of those whom Brahma creates, the conditioned souls? They encounter fearful dangers at every step of their lives. I do not know of any relief from this fear except shelter at your lotus feet, which are the very form of liberation. Bhanuswami translates this a little differently. O Lord, for people fearing samsara, I do not know any auspiciousness other than the lotus feet of you, the form of liberation, since even Brahma, who lives for 2 paradas, also fears time. What to speak of creatures created by him? That's a much shorter and simpler translation. If we go back and look at this Tava Angri, your feet, there's no other relief. This is the relief. It starts with the feet, which are the relief, and the word is used for the feet is Apavarga Murti, the form of liberation. This is this word, Apavarga. Now I'll come back to the interesting play on words with that Apavarga that Prabhupada has mentioned in a couple of places. And this provides a shema. Shema means ultimate benefit, the highest benefit for those persons who are on all sides fear the passage of time, bia. Even Brahma, who it says, what speak of those whom Brahma creates? Brahma fears the passage of time. He lives for so long. Half of his lifetime is called a parada. So dviparada is, from his point of view, he lives 100 years. So, and there's a time dilation, by the way. Because there's descriptions, if you go up to Brahmaloka and come back down, if you look down, everything's going super fast, seems like super fast, and if you had a mini camp sitting up there in Brahmaloka and you look from here, you wouldn't see anything happening because it would seem like you're going really slow for here. So this is a temporal relativity is there. So Brahma's huge lifetime to him is just 100 years. He's not, but he sees everything happening very quickly. So that's his reign. And so this period of time is dangerous. This fear, because we're all on the sentence of death, actually, So when I was a kid, I'd see these movies of people in prison, and they're going to electrocute somebody, and everybody's waiting, and it's all terror all the time. It's that way anyway. You just what's the death rate here? 100%, right? That's a pretty fatal place, huh? So he's talking about this. So what do we do for this relief from fear of material existence? It's your feet, which are described here as Apavarga Murti, the form of it says here liberation personified. The very form of liberation, Murti, the form of liberation. There's no BBT purport to this, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur simply mentions, I do not know any auspiciousness other than your lotus feet for persons fearing samsara. And he cites this for samsara. He cites this parito bhya, this fear. Paritaha bhya, fear on all sides. Paritaha bhya. Since even Brahma fears time, what to speak of others created by Brahma. But I want to talk about this word apavarga because Prabhupada had done something interested with here. Now the word pavarga, apavarga, if you take the strict dictionary definition, it's apa is the prefix and then varga, apavarga. It means completion or end. Pancha apavarga means coming to an end in 5 days. So apavarga means just completion. And it's also, another use of it is liberation. The completion of your life is exemption from further transmigration. The dictionary says final beatitude. And they cite the Bhagavat Purana for this usage here. But then Prabhupada, commenting on this word, he says, this is in the purport to 7.13.25 in the Bhagavatam. Prabhupada said, this is called apavarga, or liberation. Material life is called pavarga because here we are subject to 5 different states of suffering, represented by the letters pa, pa, ba, ba, ma. So it's a kind of a play on words, because literally it's apavarga, but he takes it as pa-varga. Pa-varga, and in the Sanskrit consonantal alphabet, there's rows, and a row is a series, and pavarga is the series beginning with pa. You know, there's kavarga, kaka, gaga, na. You go through, and then you end up with the labials. You go starting in the back of the throat, going forward, and then finally for the consonants, pa, pa, ba, ba, ma. That's the P row, the row beginning with pa, pavarga. And so apavarga means not pavarga, right? Because, so here there are 5 different states of suffering represented by this row, pa, pa, ba, ba, ma. Pa means parishrama, very hard labor. Pa, with the aspirate, pa, pa. Pa means pena, or foam from the mouth. For example, sometimes we see a horse foaming at the mouth with heavy labor. Ba means biartata, disappointment. In spite of so much hard labor, at the end we find disappointment. Ba, B with H-A as we write it, bhaya, or fear. In material life, one is always in the blazing fire of fear, since no one knows what will happen next. Do you know what's going to happen next? We don't. We just assume anything but, where we stand, sometimes there's a jet falling, going way up, 30,000 feet above us, and boom, it could fall down any time. Finally, ma means mrityu, or death. When one attempts to nullify these 5 different statuses of life, pa, pa, ba, ba, ma, one achieves apavarga, or liberation from the punishment of material existence. So that's how it is in the Bhagavatam. In the Nectar of Devotion, chapter 23, it's a section 59 where it talks about, the title is Krishna gives salvation to the enemies that he kills. So Prabhupada gives a kind of another take on it. This is the earlier one because this was the NOD. Another name for salvation is apavarga. Apavarga is the opposite of pavarga, or the various miserable conditions of material existence. The word pavarga indicates the combination of 5 Sanskrit letters, pa, pa, ba, ba, ma. These letters are the first letters of the words of 5 different conditions as described below. The first letter, pa, comes from the word parabhava, so it's a little different, right? Which means defeat. See, the other account is parishrama, very hard labor, so otherwise defeat. So there's different sources where different people have probably put this down. In this material struggle for existence, we are simply meeting defeat. Actually, we have to conquer birth, death, disease, and old age. And because there's no possibility of overcoming these miserable conditions, due to the illusion of Maya, we are simply meeting with parabhava, or defeat. The next letter, pa, is taken for the word pena, so that's the same word. Phena is the foam which is found on the mouth when one is very tired, as commonly observed with horses. The letter bha comes from the word disappointment or bondage. He doesn't give the Sanskrit. Bha is taken from the word bhiti, or fearfulness. Ma is taken from the word mriti, or death. So one is mrityu and one is mriti. It's the same word. So the word pavarga signifies our struggle for existence and our meeting with defeat, exhaustion, bondage, fearfulness, and at last death. Good luck with all that. Apavarga means that which can nullify all these material conditions. Krishna is said to be the giver of the path of liberation. So those are two ways of counting this. So we should remember this pavarga, because that's our condition. How you want to be happy in this world? How are you going to solve the death problem? What are you going to do? Pretend it's not there, or that you get exhausted, that you have so many plans in life, and at the end you say, what was that all about? What did I do? You maybe had your 5 minutes of fame somewhere, or you got a certificate from somebody that says you're a great guy, and you appeared once on Seinfeld or something. Okay. Or you were Seinfeld. What's that? Who will remember him in 200 years, Anyway, so don't look for happiness in the material world. But there's something you can do, which is seek out apavarga. And so the Lord is apavarga murti, liberation personified. So now we will go on. Markandeya Rishi, these are very sophisticated prayers, by the way. They're quite, not simple Sanskrit sometimes. So 44. Tad vaibhajamrita diyastava padamulam hit vedam atma chadichatma guru parasya dehatya partam asadatyam abhijna matram vindeta te tarhisava manini vindeta te tarhisarva manishitartam. Therefore, I worship your lotus feet, having renounced my identification with the material body and everything else that covers my true self. These useless, insubstantial, and temporary coverings. Three good words, huh? Useless, insubstantial, and temporary, are merely presumed to be separate from you, whose intelligence encompasses all truth. By attaining you, the Supreme Godhead and the Master of the soul, one attains everything desirable. Bhanuswami translates this a little differently, following Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's purport. We'll see he has a purport a little different from the BBT. Bhanuswami translates it, after giving up the coverings on the Atma, such as possessiveness of body and house, which are all useless, insignificant, and temporary, I worship the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, the Guru of the Jiva, who has true knowledge. A person should attain you alone who know the devotee's service, and he will attain all his desires. I think who knows the devotee's service. So this is the ways of reading it. So if you look at this, therefore I worship you, Ritta Diya. This is a Tat Purusha, one who has intelligence, Diya, which sees Rita. Rita is one of the names for truth. So I worship. So this is your intelligence encompasses all truth. Or Bhanuswami, the Lord who has true knowledge. That's another way of saying this. Ritadiya. And then then giving up this Atma Chadi, the covering of the self. Then it says the Lord is referred to as the Atma Guru, the Guru of the soul. He's the actual teacher, the Guru, who is the Parasya. And then he says these things, the Deha, the body, and other false designations, apartam, asat, anyam, all these things, abhijna matram, only imagine to have separate existence, that is to say, from you. They actually come from you. And when you then you are the one, when you attain it, you get all desirable things. The BBT has a purport. One who falsely identifies himself as the material body or mind automatically feels entitled to exploit the material world. But when we realize our eternal spiritual nature and Lord Krishna's supreme proprietorship over all that be, that's why he's saying all these things, they really belong to you. Because where do they come from? How do we get them? How do we, And if we have the intelligence to make things, where did that intelligence come from? From nothing? Yeah, that's what they're trying to make us believe. So when we realize our eternal spiritual nature, that's one thing, and Lord Krishna's supreme proprietorship over all that be, we renounce our false enjoying propensity by the strength of spiritual knowledge. Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says, Rita Diya means the Lord who has true knowledge. Giving up the covering on the Atma, possessiveness of body and house, which is useless, apartam, insignificant, asat, and temporary, antyam, I worship the lotus feet of you who have true knowledge. Why don't they say have here? Who has true knowledge? I guess maybe, anyway. One who worships you also attains you, who knows the service of the devotee. Quotation marks. In the next sentence, someone is objecting. Then let those without material desires worship me. Let those with desires worship someone else. No. If someone attains you, he attains all desirable objects. Prabhupada describes this, this is when you say faith. You have faith in the process of Krishna consciousness, that if you attain Krishna consciousness, sarva karma krita hoy, you also get everything else that you need. You can't think you're going to be missing out somewhere, on some level, somewhere. So that I need Krishna consciousness plus, a pass to the World Series. I need Krishna consciousness plus, because I think that Krishna consciousness won't be enough to make me happy. So this is the idea of what faith is. That you won't be losing out under anything. And so that's why he's saying that all the things that are temporary and we think are temporary for you, they're all controlled by you, and you will take care of everything for the devotee, and you won't be missing out. And then other people are working so hard to get everything together for them, and then so many chance occurrences take place. The rivers flood, and the polar ice caps melt. You get wiped out in so many different ways. But Krishna actually takes. It says, "One who worships you also attains you, who know the service of the devotee." He knows. You don't have to worry. This is what's required. Have this confidence in Krishna that we're not going to be left out in any way, and He'll take care of us. So that's the purport of this 44th. This is what Markandeya Rishi is saying. Then, with text 45, it goes like this: Sattvam rajastama iti shatavatma bandho maya stitilayodaya hetavosya lila ditta yadapi sattva mayi prashantyai Nanye drinam vyasana mohabiyas chayabhyam. O my Lord, O Supreme Friend of the conditioned soul, although for the creation, maintenance, and annihilation of this world, you accept the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance, which constitute your illusory potency, you specifically employ the mode of goodness to liberate the conditioned souls. The other two modes simply bring them suffering, illusion, and fear. So you can see that first there's the list: sattva, rajas, tama, iti. Iti is like here quotation marks. These three, put in those what preceded it. It means thus, but that functions the way a closed quotation mark. There's no beginning quotation marks in Sanskrit, but sometimes the end is done like that. And then he's called Atma Bandha, the friend of the soul. So these three, goodness, passion, and ignorance, the modes of nature, we see everywhere. Things are being created, things are being maintained, things are being destroyed. That's going on. And so when things are being created, material nature's in the mode of passion. When they're being maintained, they're in the mode of goodness. And when they're being destroyed, falling apart, decaying, the mode of ignorance. That's how you can see them. It's quite empirical observation. And this is the cycle of nature. There's creation, maintenance, and destruction. When there's destruction, the end products of destruction are again reassembled and a new creation takes place. The cycle of the seasons is like that. And so we can see this. This is quite observable by us. And it's really good. And then, it's very good to be able to recognize the modes, because we have to see in ourselves, because they're also mental conditions. And this is described very vividly in the Bhagavad Gita, the whole chapter on it. And for our own spiritual advancement, we work in such a way that we want to see the modes of passion and ignorance decrease and the mode of goodness increase, because only in the mode of goodness can you begin to actually understand. You need this therapy in order to become Krishna conscious. And then there's Vishuddha Sattva, that's goodness without any, normally, and even in the mode of material goodness, there's a little bit of ignorance, a little bit of passion, but transcendence is Sattva without any contamination of the other two. That's what we're after. People don't teach this anymore. You know, people have no idea of what's happening. But it's worth knowing because you know, our standard of advancement in America is the standard of the modes of passion. We learn in the Bhagavad Gita that the result of the mode of passion is misery. Goodness is happiness. Passion is misery. And mode of ignorance is insanity, intoxication, decaying, you know, when everything falls apart, that's tamagun. So what happens when your idea of progress is the standard of progress is the mode of passion, and the result of the mode of passion is misery? What's your future? And then, you know, when you're miserable, then you got to do something else to alleviate the misery. And usually then you go to the mode of ignorance. You start taking drugs and various things like that, licit or illicit, but, you know, all that kind of stuff. It's not a good future. And so that's the standard of advancement right now. Is the standard of the mode of passion, and the future is very bad. And the culture of Krishna consciousness is meant to establish the mode of goodness as the standard of advancement. But it'll ruin the economy for a lot of people. The idea is to intensify your desires. You didn't know you want something until you see it on the television. And, oh, I didn't know I wanted that. Now I have to have it, you know. Anyway, you know what it's like living in this place. So you always have to be, and it says here, you employ the mode of goodness to liberate the conditioned souls, and the other two bring suffering, illusion, and fear. So I don't know of anybody who really teaches you how to cultivate the mode of goodness, and that's just preliminary to transcendence. That's the thing. Did I read Bhanuswami's translation? O Master of life forms, O friend of the Jiva, the cause of creation, maintenance, and destruction of the universe of all beings, including the Devatas, are the three gunas made of Maya. Though you accept the pastimes of Sattva guna for auspiciousness, you do not accept Rajas and Tamas at all, since they produce pain, illusion, and fear for mankind. Now there's a purport here. The BBT has one. And also Bhishma Chakrabarti Thakur has a purport. Here's the... The BBT, they say the word Lila Dritta, it's there at the beginning of the second line. Lila Dritta is third here, is when they break them in two. Lila Dritta, assumed as a pastime. The word Lila Drittaha the words Lila Drittaha indicate that the creative activity of Lord Brahma, the destructive activities of Lord Shiva, and the sustaining functions of Lord Vishnu, are all pastimes of the Absolute Truth, Lord Krishna. But ultimately, only Lord Vishnu can award liberation from the clutches of material illusion, as indicated by the words Sattva Mayi Prasantyai. You see where that is? Sattva Mayi Prasantyai. Third line in the verse here. That's it's a Satchamayi Prashant, which is for liberation. That which is in the mode of goodness is meant for liberation. It's conducive. It's not itself. You can become the mode of goodness brings happiness, and you become attached to that too. You have to be careful. Anyway, there's another paragraph here. Our passionate and ignorant activities cause great suffering, illusion, and fear for us and others. Therefore, they should be given up. One should become firmly situated in the mode of goodness and live peacefully on the spiritual platform. The essence of goodness is to renounce selfish interest in all one's activities and thus dedicate one's entire being to the Supreme Being, Lord Krishna, who's the source of our existence. Let's read Bhanuswami's this is 45. Now here's a little somewhat interesting take. So here, this first sentence is in it's in quotation marks. If a person has material desires, let him worship the Devas. Worshipping them is worshipping me, since the Devatas are my representatives. That's in quotation marks. And then he goes on, O friend of the Jiva, O master of life forms, the cause of this universe made of men, animals, and Devatas like Indra and Chandra are the three gunas which are made of Maya. How will I attain you beyond Maya? By worshipping the effects of Maya, the Devatas, who are all temporary. So see, this is what's in quotation marks is to be refuted. Though you accept Sattva-guna pastimes among all pastimes for auspiciousness, you do not accept the others, rajas and tamas actions, by which suffering, illusion, and fear arise. However, all three pastimes are made of Maya. So there's my first academic course in Hinduism, they called this the Hindu Trinity, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. There's nothing like that, the guna avatars, for the modes of nature. Do we have time for one more? Let's see. Yeah, it gets a little complicated, this. Yeah, let me just say this. There's a word in this text here. Lila drita yadapi sattva-mayi prashantyai, which is translated here as for liberation. The word prashanti means calm, quiet, pacification. Prashanta, tranquil, calm, quiet, composed. This is the mode of goodness, right? But a lot of times In the Bhagavatam, this word prashanta is devotees are described as prashanta. Prashantatma in Bhagavad Gita 6:13 and 14, the yogi is described as prashanta, which is translated by Prabhupada with an unagitated, subdued mind. So this mode of goodness is conducive for further advancement. And sometimes here again in the Bhagavad Gita 6th chapter 27, there's the phrase prashanta manasam, and when Prabhupada does the word for word, prashanta, peaceful, fixed on the lotus feet of Krishna, and manasam, whose mind is translated in the text as the yogi whose mind is fixed on me. He's described as prashanta manasam, one who has a mind that is prashanta, which then Prabhupada said is fixed on the lotus feet of Krishna. Because then you become calm and peaceful and satisfied. And then in the Bhagavatam 2.7.10, talking about Rishabhadev, Prabhupada writes, the real purpose of Jada Yoga, this is a very severe form of yoga actually, the real purpose of Jada Yoga, as mentioned here in this verse, is prashanta karana, subduing the senses. So now it's like, the karana means the senses, so prashanta, pacifying the senses, you might say, is subduing here. And then talking about Rishabhadev in Canto 2.7.10, there's this word pratyak prashanta dhira, his mind, talking about Kadamba Muni. The last one was about Rishabhadev. This is about Kadamba Muni. His mind was turned inward and was perfectly calm. That's this prashanta. And then when Lord Rishabhadev is describing transcendentalists, he uses this word prashanta, those who are pacified, very peaceful. Prabhupada translates this in the word for word, 552, very peaceful, situated in Brahman or Bhagavan. So they're both, whatever, transcendent, it's prashanta. And then also we find out that the Lord himself is described or addressed as prashanta. When Uddhava describes the Lord in Bhagavatam 3.4.7, he uses the word prashant taruna lochanam. His eyes are always peaceful, and they are reddish like the rising morning sun. Aruna is like the dawn, you know. Prashanta Aruna Loka. And then the Lord is described as Prashanta, O completely peaceful Lord, or completely peaceful one. This is in the 9th canto. So there's some usages we have of this word Prashanta, and I think we have to stop now. And we'll pick up again. Oh yeah, next verse is very interesting. Okay, we'll go on with 46 for continue with the prayers of Markandeya Rishi to Narayana. And we'll see if we have any questions or comments or discussion.
If you're on Facebook and you have a question, go ahead and type your question into the comment section. If you're on the phone, you can press *6 to unmute yourself so you can ask a question. And everybody's welcome to use the chat box on Ravindra Sabu's website. That's rsdasa.com. And to begin with, Vijay Krishna Prabhu asks, he said this question is related to 12.8.43, where we find the synonym Apavarga Morte, who are liberation personified. My question is, what is liberation, and why is it that pure devotees are not interested in liberation?
There are several. Liberation means you don't take birth again in the material world. You're liberated, you're freed from. Liberation means to be free, and you're freed from repeated birth and death in material existence. That's what liberation is. There can be a impersonal liberation. That's one form that people want. They just want to be liberated. And in one sense, it's a selfish desire. You want to put an end to suffering. And when sometimes that liberation is thought of as you become one with God, certainly devotees aren't interested in that. And so a devotee ultimately is not selfish. A devotee wants to serve Krishna. Whatever you want, if you will be happy seeing me take birth again in the material world for your service, not for my enjoyment, but for something you want me to do, I'll do it, if that's what you want. My bliss comes from serving you. And the liberation for a pure devotee is a kind of a side effect more than what you want. There's no selfish desire. I just want to serve Krishna, and if we want to have the facility for serving Krishna, and Krishna gives that facility, that's all we want. Liberation is a side effect. It's not what we're after. We're after love for Krishna, and the liberation comes sort of automatically. And if there's love for Krishna, you can be liberated in any condition whatsoever.
Shivananda Sena Prabhu asks, he said, Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you for another wonderful class. You spoke of the importance of cultivating the mode of goodness for spiritual life. My question, for a predominantly urban bhakti community, it is critically important to develop living facilities and or a temple in a natural rural setting to enable devotees to more easily develop sattva guna qualities and sustain their practice in the longer term. Okay, that's the question. Is it critically important?
It's not critically important. It may be helpful to do it. But, we have our bhakti center in the middle of Manhattan. And if you go in there and there's a temple room, and you can be everywhere. So generally in India, the sages go out of the cities and all those things. But Prabhupada has an original preface to his original Bhagavatam. He said, people think, we've left Vrindavan, we're going to the city, and we're going to the booksellers and trying to get books printed and raising funds and all this thing. People think I've lost it as a sadhu. But no, this is my service to God. It's transcendental, even though you're dealing with, as he put it, pounds, shillings, and pence, and bargaining with the paper merchant and the printers and the binders and all these things to get the books. So if it's service to Krishna, it can be anywhere, and you will not be affected by the modes. Krishna, and all we basically need is a little quiet place to sit and chant japa. And I think if you really need that, Krishna will arrange it for you, what little you need. If you're really advanced, it doesn't matter. You can be Krishna conscious under practically any circumstances whatsoever. But the cultivation of mode of goodness, one should see that when one is practicing Krishna consciousness, that the modes of passion and the modes of ignorance, which are easily identifiable once they're pointed out to you, they are decreasing. Lust, greed, anger, sloth, all these things are decreasing, and the mode of goodness. Now, not for its own sake, because in the mode of goodness, then you can concentrate your mind more fully on Krishna, and then you become transcendental to the modes whatsoever. And once you're there, it doesn't matter where you are. Great devotees are themselves a place of pilgrimage.
Vijay Krishna Prabhu asks, in relationship to 12.8.44, where we find the translation, one attains everything desirable. My question is, if attaining Krishna makes one attain everything desirable, why is it that the most surrendered class of society, the Brahmanas, are poverty-stricken?
I know some rich Brahmins. But it means that whether you have money or not, you're completely satisfied. And Krishna takes care of the devotees. He'll see that you get what you need. He really does. There's no doubt about it. And so you get all desired. One attains all desirable things, right? One attains everything desirable. Bhanu Swami says, a person should attain you alone who know the devotee's service, and he will attain all his desires. Ultimately, our desires become pure too, and what I really want is to increase my own Krishna consciousness and to be able to help others do the same thing. Because what I want to do, Prabhupada says somewhere that the devotee, or advanced devotee, has no way of feeling happiness except by seeing that Krishna is happy in all respects. That's how you get everything desirable.
Shivananda Sena Prabhu asks for a point of clarification. How does pavarga translate to pa-pa-ba-ba-ma?
Because pavarga is a technical term in grammar, in Sanskrit grammar. In Sanskrit grammar, the consonants are arranged in rows. And it starts with the row beginning with K, kavarga. Ka, ka, ga, ga, na. Cha, cha, ja, ja, na. And then finally, pa, pa, ba, ba, ma. This is the row of consonants. If you look in the back of a Bhagavad Gita, or I don't know if they have it in here, we have that arrangement is there where it shows you the Sanskrit alphabet. So the Sanskrit alphabetical order, I don't have the Gita here, it's not in this Bhagavatam. The Sanskrit alphabetical order is scientific. It begins with vowels. A, I, U, ri, ri, a, I, o, ow. It starts with the simplest, then along a, then I, U, ri, ri. And you notice the place of articulation in your mouth changes. And the consonants, I hope this new edition, they didn't leave it out. Yeah. So I'll hold it up. I don't know if it's in the screen. You see, this is a row, right? It's a varga. Row means varga. So the first, they call them here gutturals. It's in the throat. Ka, ka, ga, ga, and then an associated nasal. Ka, ka, ga, ga, na. Then the palatals. Cha, cha, ja, ja, na. And then this they call it cerebrals here. The tongue goes to the roof of the mouth, but it's kind of curled back. Ta ta da da na. This is the T with the dot under it. Then the tongue is against the teeth. Ta ta da da na, and then the labials. This is the pa varga. Pa pa ba ba na, and then they have the semivowels ya ra la va. And then the syllables sha sha sa, and then ha, the aspirant, just a ha, just a breath. That's the Sanskrit order. This is an advanced civilization, a civilization that goes A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Where is that? That's so dumb. This are brilliant people. So what this should do to everybody who's a devotee, it should smash the myth of progress. Why are we so backward when the really intelligent people had this thousands of years ago? And I tell you something, when European scholars discovered Sanskrit, they went into culture shock. They couldn't believe it. Because the whole science of linguistics is owed to that discovery of Sanskrit. Blew their minds. Okay?
Ramananda Prabhu asks, whenever I hear that the Lord has reddish eyes, I can only think of weary bloodshot eyes, or bloodshot like someone drunk or who smoked too much marijuana. Sorry to be so negative, but somehow I've never been able to think of reddish eyes other than bloodshot. Help me with an example of reddish eyes that are beautiful.
It's not the whites of your eyes. It's the rim of the eyelids that's reddish, which people sometimes do with makeup. That's what's reddish, is my understanding. And it's not dark red, you know. Anyway. If you just pull your eyelid down, you'll see a little reddishness down there in those tender tissues.
Vijay Krishna Prabhu asks, related to 12.8.45, where we find the synonym Atma Bandho, O Supreme Friend of the Soul. My question is, if Krishna is the Supreme Friend of the Soul, why is it that we see people suffering so much in the material world?
Because they reject his friendship. I want to be my own boss. I don't want anybody to tell me what to do. I don't want to follow any regular principles. So the friend, he gives you good advice. He tries to make it nice for you. But if you reject his friendship, you know, what can he do? He doesn't interfere with your freedom either. If he forced you to live in a temple when you didn't want to, you wouldn't like him. All right. All right, so we got as far as, we're up to 46. So we'll continue next week. Yes, we're here next week. Good. That's good. I'm glad to come back. Okay, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.